Greetings everyone. Today, I bring you a new video with truly terrifying stories that won't let you sleep. If you enjoy these stories, leave a like, subscribe to the channel because these stories deserve it, and comment from which part of the world you're watching us. My name is Pearl. I'm 25 years old and I'm from the Gulf Coast of Texas. What I'm about to tell you happened a few years ago, when I was 19. I'm an only child. My mom raised me by herself from the very beginning. She never asked for help from anyone, never complained, never let me see her struggle, even when I knew she was struggling. Everything she did for me. It was my senior year of high school when I started to notice that she was hiding something. I had my suspicions for months, but I didn't push. If she was keeping it to herself, she had her reasons. But then the signs became impossible to ignore. She was losing weight fast. She was eating less. Her skin had gone pale in a way that scared me. I could hear her getting sick in the bathroom at night. I started finding dark red stains on her clothes. One evening at dinner, I finally said something. I couldn't keep pretending I didn't see what was happening. Her name was Sandra. She went quiet when I asked. She wouldn't look at me. She told me she had already seen a doctor, that everything was under control, that I shouldn't worry. But I knew my mother, and I knew when she was lying. The next morning, we went to see a doctor in our neighborhood. He prescribed medications, some of them expensive. He strongly recommended rest. My mom worked as a cashier at a grocery store. She was on her feet almost all day. I suggested she ask for some time off to recover. Her employers had to understand that she was sick. She refused. The medications were too expensive, she said. If she stopped working, she wouldn't be able to afford them. We needed the money. I was selling candied apples at school. Nothing that added up to much, but something. After a long conversation, I told her I could work after school. I was almost done with my senior year anyway. She shut the conversation down completely. The weeks passed. She started taking her medications, and for a short time, she seemed to improve. But she kept going to work and barely rested. And within a few weeks, everything slipped back to where it had been. Worse, even. Some nights, I could hear her struggling to sleep from the pain. Without telling her, I went to ask for a job at a stationery shop near our house. The owner said yes. The pay wasn't much. It was only part-time, but it would help. Then, one night, I woke up to the sound of her struggling to breathe. I ran to her room. She was choking. I called the doctor in a panic, and he came to the house immediately. He was able to stabilize her. I sat beside her bed and cried. I told her how much she meant to me, that I didn't want to lose her, that I would take care of everything until she got better. I held her hand and told her through tears that it was only temporary, that she would get better, that it was my turn to take care of her. I wish I could say everything went according to plan after that night. It didn't. She kept getting worse. The medications kept getting more expensive. I was waking up early to make the candied apples, staying up late to do homework for other students for money, and working afternoons at the shop. And none of it was enough. I didn't tell her any of that. I kept it from her so she could stay calm. I didn't want to add to what she was already carrying. We'd spent the last of our savings. I was desperate. At night, I cried because I couldn't find a way out. I had 1 year of high school left, and I didn't want to lose it. But my mother was getting worse, and I was running out of options. It was an afternoon at the stationery shop when I overheard two women talking. They were complaining that money didn't go far enough anymore, and that you could earn much more working as a nighttime companion through a certain agency. I don't know why, but that stayed with me. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about it. It wasn't the first time I'd heard comments like that. Kids at school joked about it too. I asked myself whether it was true that working as a companion could solve the money problem. Every time I looked at my mother lying in her bed, something in me got quieter. A few weeks later, I was on the streets of my city at night, getting the money I needed for her medications. It was the hardest thing I had ever done, standing on a corner in the middle of the night, waiting for someone to approach. I don't want to go into the details of how it started or who led me to it. It was pure necessity. I told myself I would stop as soon as I had enough, that it would be easy to walk away. My mother wasn't naive. She started asking where the money was coming from. I told her friends from school were helping me out. It hurt to lie to her, but everything I was doing was for her. That was how the first weeks went. I hated what I was doing, and my mother didn't seem to be getting better, so I couldn't stop. Every time I left the house, I told myself it was almost over, that it was temporary. One particular night, I was distracted. I couldn't get the image of my mother out of my head. I wasn't paying attention to my surroundings. Then a car slowed down beside me. When I looked up, I saw a man. He didn't look much older than 30. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. Hollow-faced, several days of beard, eyes that were red and swollen. He looked sad and exhausted. But he smiled at me. "Are you all right?" That was the first thing he said. I looked at him for a moment and told him yes, and asked how I could help him. He said he wasn't looking for anything that night. He just wanted to talk. I told him, a little uncomfortable, that I would still need to charge him. He agreed and handed me almost 3 times what I normally asked for. I got in the car. It seemed new. I sat in the passenger seat. He asked if I wanted to go somewhere specific. I just asked him not to go too far from downtown. He parked beside a park. The spot was deep in shadow. It was very late, and the streets were empty. He turned off the engine and looked at me. Silence. I watched him without speaking. I didn't know how to read the situation. Then I noticed his eyes starting to fill. He began to cry. Tears ran down his face. "I can't take it anymore," he said quietly. "I'm desperate, and I don't know what to do." I just listened. He looked at me with red eyes. He won't leave me alone. He'll never leave me alone. "Who are you talking about?" I asked. He kept sobbing and didn't answer directly. I was hungry for money. I wanted everything. I thought he would help me. I thought it would be easy, and I accepted. I made the biggest mistake of my life. And now, he's after me. He won't even let me sleep. What he was saying made me uncomfortable. There was something in his words that frightened me, though I couldn't name exactly what. My first thought was that he owed money to someone, or that he was running from the police. I want my simple life back. I want my peace and the people I need. I have everything material now, but I can't enjoy any of it. He was a wreck of tears. "I'm sorry," I said quietly. "I don't really understand what's happening." The man lifted his gaze toward the windshield and went silent for a few seconds. He seemed to be looking at something, but there was nothing in front of us, just the shadows of the trees in the park. There's something following me. Not a person, a being, something that isn't human. I made a pact with a demon. My first instinct was that he was on something. What he was saying didn't add up, but he kept staring straight ahead, his attention fixed on a tree a few meters away. I wanted money. I wanted a life I could show off. I don't know how he found me, but when he did, he told me he could give me everything I wanted. And now I'm terrified because I see him everywhere. He always has that mocking expression, like he knows I belong to him. He won't leave me. I'm sure of it. I wanted to leave. He was saying it all with a certainty that unnerved me. His hands were trembling. Right now, he's under that tree, watching me. I looked. There was no one there. Sometimes at night, I feel his breath beside me. He starts to laugh and won't let me sleep. He whispers things in a language I don't understand, but something tells me he wants to take me with him. Something tells me I'm already condemned. The man kept crying like a child. I was looking in every direction, trying to see what he was describing. But we were alone in a corner of the park. All I wanted was to get out. He started wiping his face, and when he looked back toward the windshield, he asked me where the thing had gone. He couldn't see it anymore. He turned his head in every direction, and so did I. Nothing. And then I felt a chill at the back of my neck. I turned and looked at the back seat. There was a figure sitting there, a man, dressed entirely in black, very tall. His face was in the shadows, but he appeared to be smiling. I shoved the door open and got out. I was certain no one had been in that car when I got in. My heart was hammering. I grabbed my bag and started walking, fast, away from the car. The man didn't get out. He just watched me from the driver's seat, eyes still red, still crying, frozen with fear. I walked as fast as I could to the next corner and flagged down a taxi. On the ride home, I couldn't stop thinking about what I'd seen, how that dark shape had gotten into the back seat, how much it resembled what the man had been describing, the thing that tormented him, that wanted to drag him away. In the days that followed, I couldn't get it out of my head. I told myself, maybe I imagined it, that fear had made me see things, that it couldn't have been real, but I couldn't quite convince myself. My mother was still sick, and that thought occupied most of my mind. I went back to working the streets after about a week. The money had run out, and I had no choice. But I was always afraid now. My mind played tricks on me constantly. I thought I saw that man everywhere I looked. I couldn't sleep without the lights on. Any sound, no matter how small, put me on edge. I couldn't stand being alone. Some nights, I slept in my mother's bed just to feel less isolated. The money I was making was helping, but my mother wasn't improving. I helped her bathe, change her clothes, eat. She spent most of the day in her room. She could walk, but I preferred she stayed in bed and rested. Her breathing at night was labored and heavy. I was afraid to leave her alone, whether I was going to school or going out to work. One afternoon, I came home from class exhausted. Senior year was almost over, and the teachers were loading us with projects. I went into my mother's room to check on her. She seemed stable. I sat beside her on the bed and started telling her about my day. She looked at me strangely for a moment. I thought "You didn't go to school today," she said. "I did," I told her. "I even came in this morning to kiss you goodbye." She smiled, a little confused. "Then who was here with me all morning?" I didn't understand. "Honey, that's not possible. You came into the room twice to ask if I needed anything. I saw you walking back and forth in the hallway. I'm sure it was you. Who else would it be?" I sat very still. My first thought was that her illness was affecting her mind. I asked the doctor about it later that day, quietly, without alarming her. He said it was possible, depending on her condition. I told myself that had to be the explanation. Then she told me she'd had a bath that morning. I asked her carefully if she had done it alone. It was dangerous for her to try by herself in her condition. She could fall. She said no. She said I had helped her. I felt a heaviness settle over my shoulders. I went to the bathroom and touched her towel. It was damp. Someone had bathed her that morning, and it wasn't me. Over the following days, she kept telling me things I had no memory of doing. She said I had combed her hair, that I had brought her water and given her her medications, that I sat with her and smiled at her and watched her. Each time, she said it with complete certainty. There was no doubt in her voice. She believed fully that it had been me. One afternoon, she asked me what was wrong with my foot. She said she had seen me limping. I didn't know what to say. I felt the blood leave my face. That was when it clicked. The figure in the hallway, the dragging foot, the shape that moved from room to room. It was impersonating me. That thing, whatever it was, had been in our home, pretending to be me, spending time with my mother, touching her hair, watching her. The thought of it being that close to her made me physically sick. I didn't understand what it was, how it had that kind of power, or why it had attached itself to me. But it had come into our house, and it was far closer to my mother than I had realized. During the nights I went out, I tried to find the man from the car, the one who had picked me up that first night. I wanted to talk to him again. I wanted to understand more, but I never saw him again. I looked for him in every passing car, in the crowd, in the traffic. Nothing. I started staying home more. I needed money, but every time I went out, I was terrified of what that thing might do while I was gone. I felt constantly watched, even inside the house, even when I was alone with my mother, and she kept getting worse. Each day, thinner, eating less, the dark stains spreading. I was close to losing my mind. Then one night, I woke up suddenly, gasping, as if something heavy had landed on my chest. I sat up in the dark. My mother was beside me, her breathing shallow and exhausted. In recent days, it had become harder and harder for her to breathe. I was afraid we were close to having to hospitalize her. I got up to get water from the kitchen. My mouth was completely dry. When I came back and pushed open the bedroom door, he was there. The tall figure was standing at the foot of my mother's bed, looking down at her. He was standing upright this time, not crooked the way he had been on the street. His fingers were spread wide. His body was tilted slightly to one side. Slowly, he turned his face toward me. He was smiling. In the darkness, I could see his eyes, bright, reflective, wrong. His hand was inches from her body. His fingers moved slowly, almost tenderly. Something broke open inside me. She was my mother, and I was not going to let anything happen to her. I ran into the room. That thing was close, and I was terrified, but I was not going to let it touch her. I threw my arms around her and held her as tightly as I could. With that high, scraping voice, it told me again that it could cure her, that it could save her if I wanted. I didn't want to hear another word. I screamed at it. I told it I didn't need anything from it. I told it I would not let it take her. She was the only thing I had in this world, the only thing left, and I would fight for her until there was nothing left of me to fight with. The words came out raw and furious, directed at that figure, making clear that I was not going to bend. I pressed my mother against me and started to cry like a child. In that moment, I felt completely alone. I wanted to run. I wanted to give up. I felt defenseless and small, and all I wanted was to take her hand the way I used to when I was little. And then I felt her arms tighten around me. She had woken up. She pulled me closer and started kissing my face. I couldn't stop crying. She didn't say anything. She just held me and cried too. I could feel her body shaking. I didn't want her to go. I couldn't be without her. I had always needed her. I still did. After that night, my mother's condition deteriorated rapidly. Her breathing became so difficult that I had no choice but to take her to the hospital. That period of my life was the hardest I have ever lived through. I didn't leave that hospital. I stopped going to school. I stopped going out at night. I let everything fall away. During the early morning hours, I could feel that thing circling somewhere nearby. I could sense its shadow at a distance. That horrible weight of being watched that never fully lifted, but it didn't come close. Not after that night in the bedroom. Something had changed. Some part of me understood that it still wanted me, wanted to sell me the idea that it could save her, but I wouldn't accept. I knew it was a trap. I knew that whatever it offered, the price would take everything. When my classmates and teachers heard that my mother was in the hospital, they showed up. Some brought money. Others brought food and sat with me. I was grateful for the kindness, but I felt hollow. Watching my mother in that hospital bed, connected to machines, was something I couldn't make sense of, no matter how long I sat there. One night, I was dozing in the waiting room. The doctors wouldn't let me stay in her room overnight, so I kept a chair near the glass door that looked out into the long hallway where all the rooms were. I could see her door from there if I craned my neck. I lifted my eyes toward the hallway. He was at the far end of it, standing still, walking slowly in my direction. I tried to look away. Every time I brought my eyes back, he was still there. Closer, just standing, watching me. I closed my eyes and tried to ignore him. But then I began to hear something, a whisper, very close, like a voice just beside my ear. Words I couldn't make out, but could feel pressing into me. And then a voice cut through it sharply. I opened my eyes. It was my mother's doctor. He was standing in front of me, looking at me with an expression I already knew before he said a single word. She was gone. A cardiac arrest. Her body had given out. There was nothing they could have done. I remember sitting in that waiting room for a very long time afterward. My brain wouldn't process it. I kept waiting to feel something, and instead, I just felt the absence of everything. And then, without warning, reality came down on me like something falling from a great height. My mother was gone. Looking back on that time, I sometimes ask myself, what would have happened if I had made a deal with that thing? Maybe I would still have her. Or maybe I would have ended up like the man in the car, haunted, hollowed out, unable to enjoy a single thing he had gained. I'll never know, but the question still visits me, even now. After that night in the hospital hallway, I never saw it again. It was as if whatever had bound it to me simply dissolved, like I had been released. I finished high school, though I didn't go to the graduation ceremony. A lot of people reached out to me. They wanted to help, but I was exhausted by everyone and everything. I felt cheated by the world. I had done everything I could think of. I had tried every way I knew. And in the end, I still lost her. I miss my mother every single day. I like to believe she is finally resting, that she's no longer suffering. That's the only thing that keeps me calm, knowing she isn't in pain anymore. Every night before I sleep, I say a prayer for her. I'm certain she says one for me. I wish I could have done more. I wish I had found another way to show her how much I loved her, how much I respected everything she sacrificed. I know it doesn't change anything now, but I still bring her flowers whenever I can. I sit beside her grave for hours and tell her about my day, what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling. I like to think she hears me, that she wraps her arms around me before I fall asleep, the way she used to when I was small.